Welcome everybody to Priority Health Show number 12 with me and Carol May for the second week on a row because we didn't get enough of her last week, so we brought her back for another go. So last week in episode 11, we talked all about, remind me again, what did we talk about? I just had a massive...
Intuitive eating.
That's the one. Intuitive eating, eating disorders, where all of that stemmed from, primarily childhood, stress levels, the way that you're raised, all these different things. And today we're going to go on a completely different path, on a completely different journey, more specifically, the menopause journey. We're going to talk all about menopause, female hormones, mental health, physical health, how to deal with it all, where to go to get help if need be. Carol, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Lewis.
Thanks for taking the time out, 2 weeks on the bounce, to hop on and have a conversation with me. I massively appreciate your time, and I'm hoping that I can learn something more specifically, not just the people watching, and listening. Yeah. I want to learn some stuff as well. I'm being selfish here. Awesome. So, Carol, give us a quick introduction into your. I know you obviously introduced yourself last week, but this week, tell us a little bit more about menopause, your experience with menopause, why it's an area of expertise for you, and then we'll take things from there.
Okay. So, Carol May, the Disruptive Health Coach, and my menopause journey was long, difficult, and without a lot of support and help, I'll be honest. So things have changed slightly, but I experienced hair loss. That was the first symptom I had. And nobody really talked about it. That was sort of 20 years ago. Nobody talked about it like they do now. And then the hot flushes began. And for me, they were really debilitating for probably 20 years, which I don't mean to, people go, oh my goodness, Our menopause journey is very individual. Part of it is what we inherit from our mother. That my mother had an early menopause due to having a hysterectomy, which included back then her ovaries. So she went straight into menopause in her mid-30s. I have friends who've had cancer, same experience. Straight into menopause. And in those circumstances, you can't take HRT. So, and I was one of those. Back then, the theory was that HRT caused cancer. Now we know that that's actually not the case. But I think with people who carry certain genes like the BRCA gene, you're still not allowed to take HRT. So basically I wasn't allowed to take HRT. So my journey through menopause, and there's 3 stages of menopause. Menopause is the perimenopause, and that starts kind of really gradually. So if you think that your hormone levels are up here, you've got estrogen and progesterone, and slowly they start doing this. That's the basic decline. But what they do in that declining journey is they do this, right?
It's not linear.
Comes and goes. But basically it's going down. And so symptoms can be many and various, and they can affect us in so many different ways. Now, most people I know, their menopause journey was average. So the average is you start experiencing symptoms about the age of, in your mid-40s, so 44, 45. The average year that you have your menopause, which is the end of your periods, is about the age of 52. And then you go into that post-menopause period, which lasts for about 6 to 8 years. Now, that's the average. I don't know anybody that's average. So I know people who've started, their hormones have started going haywire in their late 30s. And apparently that is now the average time to start, which is why women's fertility declines in their late 30s. And the average age of the menopause itself is still 52, between 52 and 56. But there are women out there in their 60s who've still not had their menopause. They're still perimenopausal. That's not usual. And then you've got the post-menopause period. And for me, that lasted a further 10 years. So my menopause journey was 20 years long. And no, it wasn't as bad at the end as it was at the beginning, but my hot flushes lasted all that time. And I think that's one of the most common symptoms women talk about. And women experience different things as a result of that. Then on top of that, you've got, you're not sleeping very well. And very often that's caused by night sweats. So if you live on your own, that's not so bad. You can just change the sheets, change your, if you're wearing anything, get back into bed again. If you're not living alone, that itself causes a problem. So you can be up and down all night. As a result, during the day, you're really grumpy. And I think, I know a lot of women and they go, oh, I think my kids think I'm just a shouty mummy. And actually it's all to do with their hormones. One of the things I used to say to myself was, I have no idea what's wrong with me. I feel really anxious. I feel really low. I cry just like that about anything. Somebody just says something to me and that's it, floods of tears, no idea why. And so you don't feel yourself. So there's all sorts of emotional stuff going on. I had brain fog, my memory went. At one point, I actually thought that I might be developing early onset dementia. It was that bad. I couldn't think. I couldn't think of the right word in a sentence. I couldn't actually hold a coherent conversation. I felt really stupid. And on top, so my concentration was really, really poor, really, really poor. And my self-esteem wasn't very good at that time anyway, but it really took a plummet, And then my body decided to change and it just kind of grew. And I ended up with, I ended up looking like my mother. My boobs were my mother's. I'm thinking, do you know what? It's made me think that maybe that was her post-menopause boobs. Maybe she was smaller before, like I was. It was like, what the hell do I do with these? I have no idea. Got to buy new underwear. Oh God, don't want to do that. You don't want to go into changing rooms in shops. You buy everything over the internet. Nothing fits properly. You don't feel right in anything. It's when I started wearing only cotton clothes because it's my only way of getting through anything. And I wore sandals, open-toed sandals and cotton tops in the middle of winter because I was so hot. I used to flush a lot. The other thing was because makeup wouldn't stay on my face. And now manufacturers are thinking about this and realizing that this age group of women are actually a demographic with money who want to spend it. They still want to look good, but they need different kind of makeup to use. And then I realized that I couldn't drink wine anymore. Wine not did it give me really bad hot flushes, but it gave me migraines, it gave me all sorts of things. And to be fair, I think that was the sugar in the wine. So I started, you know, I didn't drink wine, only drank gin. Yes, yeah, a girl's got to do something. But generally speaking, I felt like I was losing my grip on life. When I went to the gym, it was like, you know, when I had classes, I used to go to classes at the gym and I knew where the air conditioning was. And woe betide anybody else who got there before me and stood underneath the air conditioning because they got pushed out the way because it was that place. You know, sorry, love, but you're younger than me. You don't get it yet. But you know what? This is my place under the aircon. It's, you know, my skin started to dry up. I'd never had dry skin before. My hair started to dry up. Everything changed. And I didn't feel that anything in my body worked properly anymore.
Yeah. So it's safe to say it's a pretty traumatic experience, a traumatic transition for your body to go through, whether it's a long, drawn out, painful one over 20 years like it was for you, or whether it's for another woman where all of a sudden, in the space of a year, they've gone from being one person to ultimately someone completely different. So yeah, either way you look at it, it's a difficult transition to make, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly is. And, you know, you don't, you know, if you've got a partner, he actually doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea who this woman is. I don't know how to cope with her. She doesn't know how to cope with her. So she can't explain to him how she feels because she's got no idea. And so, you know, I remember my ex-husband, he would go, oh, and you try and give me a hug. And I go, oh no, don't touch me. Don't come near me. I'm too hot. You know, leave me alone. You know, I didn't want to be hugged. Well, I did, but I didn't. And so, you know, on top of that, you then get relationship issues. Mm-hmm. And if things have been a bit rocky before, they're going to get rockier during menopause. Yeah. So it's good to have the conversation about this before it even starts.
Yeah.
A bit like having the conversation about want children or not before you actually get married.
Yeah.
No? Same sort of thing, really. And does menopause cause marriage breakup and relationship breakup? I think it's a contributing factor for many. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it can cause it if the relationship isn't rocky in the first place.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. But, you know, and so for me, apart from the hot flushes and all the, you know, the brain fog and the emotional stuff and everything else, there were the body changes. I put on a lot of weight really quite quickly. And I couldn't understand it. Just didn't know. I'm like, oh, well, actually, I don't think I'm doing anything different. And, you know, I know that part of the way a woman's body works is that as those female hormones decline, the balance changes so much that our body, and it causes so much stress, And we talked about stress last week. And I think that you then get stressed about it. So your body's stressed and you're stressed up here. And it goes, oh, okay, right. I'm not going to let any of this weight go then. I'm going to hold on to it.
And at the same time, you're eating more to feel better.
Yeah. So then you get the emotional eating.
Yeah.
And then because you know, if you get really bad hot flushes, you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to exercise. You know, I mean, I found swimming was great. You know, swimming was fabulous because obviously I generally didn't get a hot flush in a swimming pool or in the sea. It was fabulous. But, you know, keeping moving when you're so hot can be very debilitating.
Mm.
So women will avoid that. And so that lack of movement, not exercise per se, but movement, means that your body starts to slow down and seize up.
Yeah. And there's just a downward slope from there, isn't it? The stress gets worse, you get heavier, life gets harder, the hot flushes get worse, you get more stress, you get heavier.
Yeah.
And then
right.
before you know it, you're 17, you put on about 6. Yeah, you put on about 6 stone. You've got no idea how to change.
Yeah. You know, and you've probably got osteoporosis in the process. Lack of estrogen affects your bone density. So, you know, the important thing really is to, even if you don't feel like doing anything else, is to walk. It's weight bearing. It's important to do weight bearing exercise, movement. Really important. And just to kind of do it alongside how your body's feeling on that day. It's a tough one. It's really hard to explain because everybody's different. It's important to keep moving. It's really important.
Yeah.
And then look at your food in a way of, well, is there something now that actually is making my symptoms worse? So for some women, they find that they get migraines, for instance. Now, I found as my hormones declined, I got fewer migraines because mine were hormone dependent. But other people, they're actually food dependent migraines. So dairy is very common, cheese, red wine is very common, sugary things, very common. So I always suggest to people that they keep some form of diary, even if it's just, you know, if they have a journal, note it down. If they've just got a notepad and in the kitchen and they're just writing down what they're eating and then their symptoms next to it, they'll begin to see if there is a pattern involved in it. Then they can make a choice as to what they do about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's very individual.
Yeah. Something I get the girls in my program to do is have a menstrual diary. So they would ask themselves 10 questions every day for the first month of the program. And it'd be like stomach cramps, energy levels, cravings, bowel movements, sleep quality, that sort of thing. And then they put it into a grid, and then they will highlight, they give a score out of 5, and then there'll be areas which will be like what I call hotspots, which is when, depending on the score, there's like oranges and reds in there. And they'll be, and then look at that data and be like, okay, that's an area when my body is tired, it's craving a lot of food, it's extremely stressed. I need to tailor things the rest of the month around that one hot point. So we'll change their nutrition targets, we'll change their exercise intensity, their recovery time, all those sorts of things. We'll change all of those things throughout the month so that over the month they're in a deficit, so they actually lose the weight that they want to lose. But at that period of time when their body's under a lot of stress, we kind of work with the body. And that's the key, isn't it? It's working with your body rather than just following like what a lot of women do, or what a lot of coaches do, is they just give women the same program as they would a man, just less reps, or higher reps, less weight, and just a little bit less food. And it's not quite that black and white. Women's physiology changes every single day. It's never going to be the same 2 days on the bounce. And you've got to make sure that you kind of take the time to actually learn your body, because the whole thing could be, life will be so much easier and you'll feel much more empowered rather than sitting there going, I'm so tired today. I don't know. Oh God, I don't know why.
Yes.
And but if you actually have a diary and educate yourself on your menstrual cycle and stuff like that, then you'll be like, oh, I'm tired today. Oh yeah, it's day so and so of my cycle. This happens every month. I'm just going to go with it. It's absolutely fine. I clearly need to chill. I'm going to chill. But Yeah, so it's just about education and
Yeah.
actually taking the time to understand your body, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And being okay with that, because we're so disconnected with our bodies generally, because we're so busy, we don't think about it. And and I think that you know, I think the other thing to understand with the menopause journey is that even when you've gone through the menopause itself, you still have a cycle. You still have those hormones, just at a lower level. You still have them all the same. And that it might be a good idea to continue with the diary. Particularly if you've had some strong symptoms, because what I find even now, 20 years on, even now, I find that when I'm having what I call a blur week, so if I have 2 or 3 days on the trot and I'm just like, just in a funk, look at the calendar, it's always the last week of the month, always. Right? So I go, oh, okay, it's my cycle still.
Yeah.
You don't stop doing that. So I am kinder to myself, you know, rather than beat myself up and go, oh, for goodness sake, woman, get a grip, just get on with it. I'm actually kinder to myself. So it's all about a connection with our body. I'm not saying men shouldn't be doing the same. Most men are not going to, probably. But women, we are so ruled by our hormones from the first period that we have, and mine started when I was 10. So, and they say that generally speaking, girls are starting younger and younger now because of the hormones that are in the water that we drink.
Right.
Which is interesting. I have no idea what the statistics are. I've not looked them up because actually it's not something that affects what I do. But, you know, it's something to be aware of, that actually you can be quite young when all of this starts. Whereas with my son, you know, my daughter actually my daughter didn't start when she was 10, but I noticed my daughter was much more ruled by her hormones. And my son, it started much later. He was older. And yeah, so, and I think the other thing too is to be aware that there is a lot of help out there now. You know, you don't have to go to the doctor. If you want HRT, yes, you can. Nothing wrong with HRT. And if you find one that suits you and it works for you, stick with it. If you don't, it may be because there isn't one. So you just have to accept it. I tried all sorts of other natural ways of coping with my symptoms. And I did have one that was drops, and they were based on wild yam, which I know is quite well known. And as soon as I felt a hot flush starting, I used to put the drops under my tongue, and I know it did reduce the intensity of it. Because when they were really bad, I actually used to get a panic attack with it. So, and sorry, I've just got there we go. So, and I had a ceiling fan put in one of the rooms in the house, which in the UK isn't very common, just so I could go and stand under it each time I had a hot flush. But, you know, there's so much that you can do now through food, because we know so much more than we did when I was going through it. There are lots and lots of groups on social media. that provide support. I would recommend now, I know what I would choose to do. I would go and see a functional medicine doctor.
Right.
So somebody like Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who, you know, he's the most well-known one, but, you know, I am friends with a functional medicine doctor, purely because I want to be able to refer women to her whose symptoms are so severe. I can't, you know, that's not my specific area of expertise, whereas she can help them with that. And she's a registered GP anyway. But also what you get with going to somebody like that is you get time, somebody that will listen to you. Because, you know, on the NHS, yeah, what do you get? 10 minutes. Well, if you don't understand what's happening to you, 10 minutes just isn't long enough. It's not going to work. And there are lots of coaches and experienced people who purely work with the menopause. And some are better than others. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's, you know, if you're trying certain things and you're looking at food and exercise and everything else, that's really good. That's a good foundation. But some women will need more than that.
Yeah.
And that help is there. But of course, most of it is not free.
Yeah.
You know, it's the way it is. But it is worth getting that help. And I think, you know, accepting that managing your menopause, your transition, you know, all women go through it. You can't escape it. It happens. 100% of women will go through this. You can't change that. How you experience it is what partly you have control over. Not a lot, but you have some. But it should be part of our healthcare routine.
Yeah. I think it's a case of you being aware of this is going to happen. Educating yourself on what the potential symptoms are. And then when you start getting those symptoms, make a diary, start being proactive with your education in regards to your body and what solutions are out there or what helps out there. So that you're equipped with the right tools, so that rather than you sitting there losing your mind, wondering why you're going crazy and thinking that you're going senile, actually sitting there and going, hang on a second, I read about this, I've been warned about this, I think it's time to speak to an expert, and then you can nip it in the bud. And I think just even if you can't change the symptoms and make yourself feel better physically, I guarantee you'll probably feel a lot better if you know why you're feeling like you are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's called empowerment, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and being in control of our health. It's one thing we all can do, is be in control of our health. I know a lot of people think they can't. I get told that every day. You know, when I say to people, you know, how about, you know, let's have a look at improving this area. Oh no, I have no control over that. Well, actually you do. You know? So I think certainly our job, yours and mine, is partly to educate people, women mostly, to feel empowered around their health.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit like, I have a damaged knee. I fell straight on it. It's damaged. I can't change that damage. What I can change is how I deal with it. Now, my sister, who's younger than me, has had 2 knee replacements and 1 hip replacement. Do I want to go down that route? No, I certainly don't. Right? She chose that route. She went privately. I deal with my health in a different way than she does. And as a result, I experience being in my body differently. It's it's really interesting. So yeah, absolutely. It's about education. It's about talking about these things. It's about talking to those around you.
Yeah.
And so that we just know it becomes accepted as normal in life.
Yeah. I think, I think people don't really talk about it. Like the only person that I've ever heard talk about menopause is my mum, and she doesn't even talk about it that much. Like she'll say, "Oh, I'm getting loads of hot flushes at the moment," and it's just something that's not really discussed. Like a lot of things, like a woman's menstrual cycle when it comes to their fat loss, it's just kind of bloody ignored. I think it's ridiculous because it plays such a pivotal role in their consistency, the results they're going to get, their actual mental health as a whole, not just their. It's not just a case of they're a woman, they have a period. There's a lot more going on in the bigger picture, and like you said, it's something that should be talked about more. And I think if people actually, like, I was obviously in school with girls, there was never any education on menopause. Never any education really on. I remember them talking about, oh yeah, you're a woman, you have ovaries, you have a womb, you're going to have periods. They don't talk anything about hormones and the fact that, one day you're going to want to kill your husband, the next day you're going to be absolutely loving life. They don't tell you any of that. They don't tell you that when you turn 50, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night in a pool of sweat, and again, you're going to want to stab your husband when he touches you. They don't tell you any of that. And I don't think it's just a case of women need to be educated. Men do as well.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Because like you already said, you're going to make your wife far happier if you can have a bit of empathy as to what's going on. But if you're sat there and your wife's sat on the sofa sweating under the ceiling fan with 10 fans on her, and you're sat there going, "It's 2 degrees, mate. What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
And she's snapping at him, and he's just like, why are you being a dick for?
Yeah.
When if the man's actually educated as well, he'll be like, "It's okay, just go through the menopause.
Yeah.
I'll just leave her in the corner with her feet in a bucket of water and a fan sellotape to her head, and then she'll be absolutely fine."
And all certainly
it does need
open in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my husband at the time, he just accepted, that the windows would be open, the fan would be on over there, and that I only wanted a summer quilt on my side of the bed. But it's not easy, and it's not easy if you don't communicate these things.
Yeah.
And it's not easy if you push it all under the carpet.
Yeah, it's going to make everything far easier if it's just talked about.
Yeah.
Like when I work with people in my program, I'll literally say to them, "Look, you've got to get your family on board, or else you're going to be fighting an uphill battle." And it's the same with your menopause, anything like that. You got to look like any good relationship you should communicate and just be like, "Look, this stuff's going on. I don't really know why. I'm going to try and get some help, but in the meantime, I may be a bit of a dick, and I'm sorry. I apologize in advance, but I can't control it. And maybe you should go and do some research as well to educate yourself."
Yes.
And then everyone will be happy. A bit more harmony in the home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually planning to run some in-the-room groups for men at menopause till all this happened. And it's like, okay, right, that's not going to happen then.
Yeah.
But, you'd be surprised at how many medics, so nurses as well as doctors, are clueless at menopause.
Yeah.
And all I can think, very often what they'll do is they'll just hand out antidepressants even now. And it's not what a woman needs.
No.
Because, that feeling, that low mood, that low libido, that low everything, it's to do with our hormones. And, as we now know, most of our serotonin is actually produced in the gut anyway. So, actually, let's look at food. Let's look at the hormones. the problem here is that we rely on the NHS, and the NHS only does stuff that it says it can afford. Whereas in the US, for instance, you can get tested for all sorts of things. So you can get tested for specific hormones. You can take bioidentical estrogen, for instance. That's only available here in the private clinics in London. So, you know, we expect a lot from our NHS, and that's just not going to happen. So it is about taking responsibility for it yourself, taking the bull by the horns. And if your symptoms are affecting your life enough, it's up to you to take charge and to get the help that you need.
Definitely. Awesome, Carol. It's been an absolute pleasure again to pick your brains and get some, you know, a bit of, you know, education on the menopause and everything like that. And hopefully the people watching and listening can kind of now know how important it is that they actually educate themselves on their own physiology. Even if you haven't even started menopause, start now educating yourself on your body, its menstrual cycle, its hormone fluctuations, how it changes day to day, so that when you do start menopause, you're prepared and you know what's coming.
Whatever it throws at you.
Yeah, exactly.
And for however it lasts, really.
Yeah.
You know, I used to carry 2 fans in my handbag, one for me, one for a friend.
Or one for each hand if it was really bad.
Oh, if it was really bad, yeah. But, you know, and then I realised the other day that I hadn't actually got my fan in my bag at all. So, yeah, you know, it is about all of that, So anyway, I hope that was helpful to all of your listeners.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So
last week, I had a few messages last week about the food, the intuitive eating stuff, that a lot of people were like, oh, this is fascinating. So that's really good. And I'm sure the same will happen with this one. Carol, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And who knows, we may get you back in the future for a hat trick. Who knows?
You never know. Yes.
Awesome. Carol, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.